Development of a framework to expedite the National Investment Project approval process of Sri Lanka. The draft final submission to His Excellency the President. The task was granted to SIDA under the Gazette Notification 2187/27 dated 9th August 2020. SIDA comes under State Ministry of Rural Housing and Construction and Building Materials Industries Promotion. The work commenced with the commencement of information collection on 24th August 2020. Then the communication commencement with identified institutes on 28th August 2020. Brainstorming session with experts on the subjects at SIDA took place on the 4th of September 2020. Then meeting at the ministry with key officials took place on the 8th September 2020. Initial stakeholders meeting with 28 institutes at the ministry took place on the 18th September 2020 and the participation of Honorable Minister as well. Draft final stakeholders meeting to 28 institutes took place on the 27th November 2020 at the ministry. Then discussion with professionals and professional institutes took place on the 3rd of December 2020. Representing Board of Management as well. Now we are going to present the final solution to the President. As you can see, we have followed a structured process to complete this task. First, look at the scope of the work. In this, we need to identify what are those projects that seek approval, who executes them, how does the finance are channeled in our country. What is the project financing process in Sri Lanka? In this connection, let us now look at the national setting to capture the situation and what is expected from this work. If you take our country from the top, we have His Excellency the President on the top. Then we have Honorable Prime Minister, Cabinet of Ministers, non-cabinet ministers who handle the financing. Then we have the Minister of Finance and the Treasury, the co-organization. We have line ministries who channel the finance to projects. Minister of Home Affairs who sends money to projects. Then we have Ministry of Provincial Councils and local governments who send finance to the projects. Then we have members of Parliament who have given the centralized budget to carry out projects. Now you can see the funds are channeled in this manner. The brown arrows show the channels. We have international donors who bring funds to our country. Then we have foreign direct investment through our BOI. Then we have NGOs through NGO Secretariat. Then we have 3 more financial institutions which are very important. They are the Parliament, Auditor General and the Finance Commission. Their links are only question and answer. They don't channel funds. The Ministry of Provincial Council channel funds to provincial councils and local governments. Then the Ministry of Finance and the Treasury sends to the finance to the provincial councils. Once the Finance Commission approves the budget, then the provincial council can channel their finance to their projects. What is the key here is, we have 2 sections in this regard in our country according to the Constitution. One down here is the devolved functions, then the non-devolved functions. Below are the projects, or we deal with the service recipients, communities, beneficiaries. And up here we have the national action, and down here we have the projects. And down here are the projects, NGO projects, BOI projects, line ministry projects and program boundaries, divisional and GND level projects, decentralized budget projects. Then in the devolved functions, we have again projects and programs, municipal and urban council Pradeshiya Sabha projects, and decentralized budget projects. Now the NGO projects are handled by the NGO Secretariat. The BOI projects are handled by the BOI. Then we have the line ministries, which carry out national projects through their national institutions, government and semi-government projects, and then through their regional units, sub-regional heads and sub-regional units. Then we have the Ministry of Home Affairs projects under district secretariats and divisional secretariats. Then we have the decentralized budget projects. On the other hand, on the devolved functions, local government and local authorities, we have the provincial councils and decentralized projects. Then we have provincial heads and units, district heads, divisional units, and projects and programs. Now in the country we have 3 layers. These specific layers, we call them national, provinces, districts, and even divisions. And this is the picture of projects, financing in our country. Now for this present work, the information collection or the data collection was conducted in a very structured manner through identified 28 agencies. We contacted all cabinet secretaries, state secretaries of the country to capture all project approval institutions. We contacted all identified institutions granting project approvals. Each agency maximum of 28 times and minimum of 11, and of course average 22 times. As we collected the information, verification was done by sending the information to the cabinet secretaries and their nominees. We first sent the basic information to these secretaries, then we parsed the specific information and collected them. If you look at the initial verification through the cabinet secretaries, name of the ministry, name of the cabinet secretary, approving organization or authority, nominated person and designation, contacted person and designation, person attended to the ministers' meeting. We send this to the cabinet ministers to get the verification. Our request was, please verify the details related to task of the National Investment Project approval process that have been collected and also fill the missing information. With this, we asked to send the specific details we collected from the ministries. We asked the name of the approval process. And we asked designated authority for approval. Then we asked relevant Parliament Act and the relevant clause. We asked relevant Gazette number and the date. And we asked project approval must be taken prior to project started. And then we asked implementation period or other completion of the project. Then we kept on asking procedures to be followed to get these approvals and evaluation criteria for the approval, payment to grant the approval. We asked whether the approvals are granted by the central office or regional office or both. We asked whether they have any flowcharts of instructions to be followed by the investor. And we asked whether they have any time frame for this process, minimum, maximum, or whether they have the average. Now this is the result what we got. The approval granting institution, and then this is who has empowered them, then how many stages are there, then days to grant the approval, then whether they have a procedure. Now the first 8 agencies is here. Most of them have acts of parliament, some have not indicated. And the dates requirement, most of them have not indicated. And regarding the procedures, most of them have sent documents. This from agency 9 to 20, and here also it is clear they have not given the most of the acts. Then when it comes to days requirements, once again they have not given more details. And when it comes to procedures, 2 agencies have not submitted the relevant details. In this regard, we have contacted them several times, but majority of them have given the details. Then from 21 to 28 is here. Here also you can see, as far as act is concerned, they have not given much details. And days required section is concerned, most of them have not given details. And then submission of available procedures and approval, once again they have not given much details. Therefore, what we do is a set of documents, what is there, we pick up. Now, if I present the summary for you, Act of Parliament, out of 28, 13 have said yes, and out of 28, 14 has not indicated, one without an Act of Parliament. Then about the stages, one institution with 2 stages, that is national planning developments, others only with 1 stage. Days required for approval, out of 28 agencies, only 8 has answered, and out of 28 agencies, 20 has answered no. Then about the procedure for approval, not a single agency had a single document. 23 with many documents, 5 no procedures. In the stage 2 information collection, we realized that we need to have more specific information, and we asked external agencies that should give approval for these agencies to say yes. Then we asked to send us the final approval letter, certificate or format. Then we asked the technical name of the qualified person who should prepare the project proposal or necessary documentation. That is, we asked who are the competent people that you have to produce the proposals to get the approval. Then we asked qualifications, experience, capability of preparer as desired by the institution to recognize the project proposal. Like that, we asked 4 important questions. Those are very important. Then these are the answers. There are 17 agencies. Procedures provided or not is concerned, 1 agency did not provide it. External agencies provided or not is concerned, majority of them have responded. Final approval form provided or not is concerned, majority of them have positively responded. When it comes to qualified persons provided or not column is concerned, this is a very important finding that majority of them have not positively responded. Then the following agencies from 18 to 28, when you look at the procedures, they have not responded positively. When it comes to external agencies provided or not, 1 agency did not respond. Final approval form provided or not is not responded by many, and the qualified persons provided or not column has been not responded by many. Now, in this stage 2 information collection section, the summary is: send details about external agencies. Out of 28, 28 has been said yes. Sent to the final approval certificate. Out of 28, 18 said yes, and out of 28, 10 said no. Sent the technical name of the qualified person. Out of 28, only 7 responded. Sent the qualifications, experience, capability of qualified persons. Out of 28, 7 have responded. Now let's get to the analysis. There are 2 types of projects: the private sector projects and the public sector projects. Private sector projects are private or public use. They are on private lands, and the approval is granted by the local government administration. The public use is concerned, they are on state lands. Those approvals are granted by the central government administration or provincial administration. Now, the projects we are going to deal in this task are all the projects which are covered in the country. So we have not left anything private or government. First of all, let us look at the public sector project approval in the country. We have 5 types of projects in the country. They are called mega, large, medium, small and micro. Out of these 4 types of projects are covered by this presentation, because the 5th one, micro's approval, is granted by the Ministerial Secretariat. Now the line agency prepares the project proposal. Ministry Secretary sends it to the National Planning Department for approval. and then there it will be identified whether it is domestic or foreign funding. If it is foreign financing, the proposal is sent to foreign funded ERD. If it is domestic, it is sent to National Budget Department. The proposal is sent to Ministry Secretary to get the Cabinet approval. Cabinet approval is given in 2 stages. That is round 1 and round 2. If it is in the round 1, NPD requires them to do the feasibility, EIA, etc. and send it back to the NPD approval. And then the NPD approval is granted. Once the NPD approval is granted, the Ministry Secretary asks to get the Cabinet approval round 2. And it goes to the final Cabinet approval. In this, when Cabinet approval is granted, it is going to the National Budget Department and also to the Foreign Funded External Resources Department. Once the clearing is given, the Treasury approval is granted and the final implementation approval is granted. So this is the public sector project approval process in the country. We did a survey among the ministry nominees. Now we asked the cabinet ministries and the state ministries, nominees for these agencies, we asked them about the public finance approval. We asked from the 65 nominees. If you look at this chart, total number of ministry nominees 65, about 40 without project submission experience. With project submission experience is about 25, and the major project submission experience is very limited. On this survey, we learned the time taken for NPD approval, maximum 3 months, minimum 2 months, on average it is 2.5 months for the public project approval process to complete. Now this is my remark. Taking into consideration the 2.5 months, actually it takes only a shorter time for public projects approval. Or the public project in the first round submitted all required reports, or the respondents have submitted only small projects, or the projects were top-driven, decided by the top and sent for implementation. However, on average 2.5 months according to the ministry nominees and public project approval process. In this, let's look at the private investment projects now. Here are the agencies that look at projects. Here I have not taken especially the UDA, BOI, MASL and the local government's special organizations. But most of us think that these are the agencies that dealing with project approval. At the same time, we have CEA, NBRO, Lowland Reclamation, RDA, Water Board, down here agencies. And if you take UDA, you have to go to all these agencies to get the project approval. And if you take BOI, you have to go to UDA and all these agencies to get the project approval. If you take MASL, you have to go all these agencies to get the project approval. If you take local government authorities, you have to go to UDA, CEA, NBRO, Water Board and the rest of the agencies to get the approval. And then if you go to NBRO, you have to go to UDA, SLLDC and CEA and the rest of the other agencies. And if you go to Tourism Authority, you have to go to all these agencies. If you go to NWSDB, you have to go to all these agencies to get your approval. And if you look at the old system, this is how one has to go to get his or her approval from the agencies. Now about the days, many have not answered. It varies 14 days, 10 to 15 days, 3 weeks, 2 months, 3 to 5 years and 14 days. So we conducted a metric operation to see how this connectivity of institutions when granting project approvals. Now these metrics, the legend is here. Let me explain more clearly. Here you find the parent institution granting approval And these are connected agencies. Let us say, when you go to one particular agency here, you have to go to all these agencies to get your approval. If you go to this agency, you have to go to all these agencies to get your approval. If you go to this agency, you have to go to all these agencies to get your approval. And this is the matrix. And you can see in this chart, some agencies have not responded, and sometimes there are no approval granted and therefore some the approvals has not been granted for those 28 agencies that we thought that they have to get the approval from the relevant agencies. Now we look at the CEDA proposal and confirmation of intention of His Excellency the President. The intention of His Excellency the President has been given in his manifesto and also at several forums how he desires how the approval should be granted within a very short period. We call this the framework. Then if you take the arrival of the investor, there is the one-stop shop. At that point, we tell them very clearly what is required to do and how to do. We wanted the investor to submit the full set of documents to this one-stop shop. Then the one-stop shop will fully evaluate the documents what is provided by the investor. And if it is not there, they will get back to the investor. If it is there, the one-stop shop will evaluate whether the qualified person's job is good enough to evaluate for the approval from the relevant agencies. If it is not satisfactory, the one-stop shop will instruct the investor to consult the qualified persons for that purpose. And if both are correct, we will send the proposals to the relevant agencies to get the approval from those 28 agencies. And if the agencies do the requirements fast, and we will run the approval or rejection based decision to the one-stop shop. The biggest issue in our country that this process takes a long time. For this, if the time taken is more than 2 weeks, we first find out whether it is less than 2 weeks. If it is less than 2 weeks, then the agencies have enough time. We will go and check the output condition. If it is not still being done, that means the proposal is still with the agencies. Then, if it is yes, we will submit it to get the approval. Then we will go and grant the approval if the process is fine. But if it has taken a long time, the one-stop shop will look at the output condition. The one-stop shop will look at the condition where it is and which agency has it. But they grant conditional yes if the proposal is done by a qualified person, and then the conditional approval is granted, and then the investor can proceed. At the same time, the one-stop shop will instruct the other agencies to expedite and find out why while he is going ahead with the process. This is the framework we propose to His Excellency the President. Now, during this study, we made 2 observations. Those are direct observations, conclusive observations. When you take the direct observations, Acts of Parliament only available 48%. Details not investigated. For that, we need to revisit and instruct them to have a Parliament Act. Rules and regulations. In this regard, there is no clarity of information. We need to investigate and instruct. Procedure for approval. There's no handbook, guidelines, forms and criteria. So we need to instruct them. Procedures are available, but we have to revisit and instruct the agencies to have them. Guidelines and forms, we have to investigate and instruct. Criteria, no one has indicated what is the criteria. They need to investigate and instruct it. Days required for approval, only given by 29%. We have to investigate and instruct them. Qualified person identification, only 25% have given the answers. We have to investigate and instruct them. Now let's look at the important or conclusive observations. Where to go? It's uncertain, needs a central information center. What are the state investment requirements? There is no indication. We need to give the investors a clear guidance. What are the projects in the pipeline? It should be in the investor's discretion. It needs a direction from the government. What is selection criteria? The investor does not know. There should be a guideline. There should be a guidance. Public consultation requirement. Only CEA has indicated. Others did not indicate it. We need to investigate. Public consultation responsibility, we did not investigate. It is very important to investigate and instruct them. Is the given approval final binding? What is the document? It needs clarity and validity. Is there a complete application and information requirement? Not investigated, but we understood there's a need for it. Responsibility of the investor to perform and finish the project. Clarity and legality. No clarity and not investigated. Therefore, the investor always remains confused. The framework for implementation. Now we have given the framework. Let us look at the implementation. That means now we are providing a guidance for the implementation process to expedite the project approval system in Sri Lanka with the intention of meaningful investor facilitation. First, we need to establish a single authority or empower an existing authority to perform as the one-stop shop with guidelines and criteria specified. Approval granting process must cover all public and private projects. At present, some are not covered. We have to empower the granting of conditional approval, stipulate the time limits for final approval. Each approving agency must have the support of a parliamentary act. Each approving agency must prepare and publish rules, regulations, and procedure for project approval. Each approving agency must clearly specify the process of approving agency for granting approval. Each approving agency must clearly specify the type of qualified person and the qualifications necessary for a qualified person to prepare and clarify the project proposal to grant conditional approval. Each qualified person must be registered qualified person. We already have one such registrar at CEDA under the CEDA Act of Parliament. Each approving agency must provide the time required to grant approval and especially mention if any public consultation has been stipulated by legislation. Then we have to abide by that. The approval granting process, including submission and certification, must be transparent. Online facility with the sufficient security, ease of access and use. Certification capability. Certification, verification methods. Registration of qualified persons must ensure the complete cover against any professional negligence. That means a professional indemnity must be ensured and the qualified person must be held responsible. So these are the implementation guidelines for the process approval system in Sri Lanka. There are some most critical areas that we need to highlight at this moment. To get the attraction of the investors towards the country, the NPD to have a sector and project priority list along with the clear criteria for evaluation. When established, this must be dynamic and updated regularly. The NPD must provide conversion factors for the conversion of financial cash flows to economic cash flows. When this is established, these factors must be updated regularly for meaningful project evaluation. The NPD must provide a clear project evaluation criteria. That means the internal rate of return, net present value, benefit of cost ratio as appropriate. When these are determined, the system must be updated regularly. The Minister of Finance must provide a uniform set of parameters such as currency rates and interest rates of return for the investors to build their confidence to our country. Now, if you look at the whole presentation up to now, you can see that the foundation is in place, fast-track the project approval. We have prepared the framework, then we have prepared and given the implementation of guidelines. Foundation has been laid with the Gazette number 2187/27 of 9th August 2020, and we call it the government has allocated the land. SIDA framework is concerned, we have done the ground preparation. Honorable Minister Indika Anuruddha has requested project approving institutions to provide handbook material. By now, our Honorable Minister has sent, informing them what they should be given to prepare a project proposal. That means we have established the foundation. Now, Honorable Minister Indika Anuruddha has sent the framework completion message to His Excellency Gotabaya Rajapaksa. By this, we have laid the foundation stone for action. If you look at this now, we have done the work, the foundation stone in place. Now, in this one, what we did, the most important thing we did was to get the project approval institution. We asked by Honorable State Minister Indika Anuruddha with the intention to develop a project approval handbook, the following information. So, the intention is to get an investment project approval application handbook. The handbook must show empowered by a parliamentary act with gazetted rules and regulations, qualified persons who prepare approval submission documents, minimum educational qualifications, minimum subject specializations, minimum experience. And not only that, the approval application handbook should contain a complete application form. Now, in the letter sent by Honorable Minister, we asked ව්‍යාපෘති අනුමැතිය සඳහා ආයතනයට පාර්ලිමේන්තු පනතෙන් පවර ඇති බලතල පරීක්ෂාවට ලක් කර අවශ්‍ය සංශෝධන සඳහා අනුමැතින් ලබා ගැනීම. අවශ්‍ය වන රෙගුලාසි රාජ්‍ය ගැසට් මගින් ප්‍රකාශයට පත් කිරීම. ආයතනයේ අනුමැතිය සඳහා ඇති ක්‍රියාපටිපාටි සහ අයදුම් පත්‍ර ඔබ ආයතනයේ අනුමැතින් සඳහා පිඹුරුපත් වාර්තා පිළියෙල කර ගැනීමේදී දායක කරගත යුතු සුදුසුකම්ලත් තැනැත්තන්ගේ අවම අධ්‍යාපන සුදුසුකම්, අවම විෂයානුබද්ධ අවශ්‍යතා, අවශ්‍ය අවම පළපොරුද්ද පැහැදිලිව සඳහන් කර දන්වා එවීම. Once these things are in place, it's possible to put in order in one handbook and print it. So you can see that the foundation stone is in place. Once the foundation stone is in place, then the next is how to get about, or we have to build the superstructure. Now, target 1. A presidential directive requesting each of the project approving agencies to have their systems in place must be done as target 1. That means their individual handbooks must be ready. Building materials are in place. Target 2. A target date is a must. For this, individual handbooks must be given. Since it is going on for some time, an approximate target to say 2 months max. Then we have to build the one-stop shop. In that, we must establish the Empowered by a Parliament Act, rules and regulations, qualified persons, and complete the application form. Now for this work, let's look at the institutional setup. As target 3.1, we should appoint a policy-making task force with adequate authority to manage the supervision, verification, and execution of the development of one-stop shop. We have to have a set of policy-making task force. And in target 3.2 must be appoint an implementation team led by the head of policy-making task force with adequate authority, finalize the implementation, setting, testing, launching, and operation. So we have to have a policy-making body and an implementation body at one-stop shop. If you take the current Sri Lankan situation, Sri Lanka is in the 99th place out of 190 countries. In the Ease of Doing Business Index, this is the percentage score taken by each country, and these are some of the few selected countries. Sri Lanka is here in 99th place out of 190 countries. And you can see Singapore is here, number 2, Hong Kong is 3, and Malaysia is in 12th. Then we have China in the 31st place, India 63, we are in 99. We strongly feel that this proposal will lead a better investor attraction. We strongly feel that this proposal will lead to a better investor attraction. So this is the end of the presentation on the proposed framework to achieve the speedy project approval process for Sri Lanka, aspiration of His Excellency the President and our Minister, Honorable Indika Anuruddha. Thank you very much.